Good morning and welcome to our colleagues from the United Nations Association of Canada. Thank you for being here. So thank you, and I'd like to thank our student development staff who organize this. Please stand up and let's have a look. Mr. Brandon, thank you very much. And I was looking at the pictures. You seem to have a lot of fun in New York there last year. That's wonderful. Great learning experience, right? And you're all going to New York in March, right? Is it March? Wonderful. Wow. Wish I could come with you. Well, it certainly is a pleasure for me to be here this morning and to speak to you. As educators, we are all passionate about developing young people's potential. I would not be in education if it weren't for the fact that I am really passionate about not just young people in Canada, but everywhere in the world. And nothing gives me greater pleasure to see students from all over the world progress and become the top of their field. So young people have a great impact in the world through achieving things that might seem impossible when they began their mission. We've seen many examples in the world of young people who've achieved great things. And I'd like to start by giving you a few examples of these young people who've made a real difference in the world. And there's going to be a little test afterwards, so make sure that you take notes, all right? So I'm going to ask you to guess who I'm speaking about. First, 19-year-old Harvard student who decided to join people together through the internet and helped to launch social media into the mainstream. You got it, yes. And what was the social media platform he launched? Facebook. How many of you are on Facebook? How many are on Twitter? Instagram? Okay. I'm surprised that many of you are on Facebook. I thought that was for old people like myself. Next, I would like to speak about a 15-year-old New Zealander who decided to sail around the world. Anyone knows who that is? No, not well known. By sailing around the world in 2010 and 2011, 15-year-old Laura Decker became the youngest person to sail around the world. She was on a sailboat for 518 days. Think about that. 518 days. How many you've flown? Most of you have flown over the ocean, haven't you? Picture yourself in a sailboat on that ocean for 518 days. High winds, waves. Her message to the world after this was over, her message to the world was, it's a very human to always strive to do better. It's always human to try to improve yourself. But along the way, she said, stop to smell the roses. Appreciate what you have day by day. And that's an important message. Several decades ago, and my generation, a 17-year-old soccer sensation got selected to play for his home country of Brazil, 1958. Who would that be? Overcoming injury, he persevered and led Brazil to their first World Cup victory, and I actually did see him play because I grew up in South America. So Pelé was a great, one of the greatest soccer players in the world. At the age of 13, next one, a young Canadian boy decided to record his music and posted his work on YouTube. Later that year, he was discovered by Usher. Who would that be? You guys like Justin Bieber? You go, girl. Justin Bieber. And he's gone on to have an extremely successful musical career and is known throughout the world for his talent. So here are some young people who have really made a tremendous impact on the world, whether it's in sports, music, or entertainment. But there's one more I'd like to talk about. And she is perhaps one of the most relevant young persons in regards to the reason that you're here today. And again, I must admit, I have actually heard her speak to a conference in Boston just 2 years ago. So I got a chance to personally meet her, and it's kind of interesting that I'm talking about her now, right? She strove to make political change, and political change is what diplomacy is all about. And this young girl has had the opportunity to speak at the United Nations headquarters before the age of 20. Who would that be? Malala. I always make sure I get this name, pronounce her last name correctly. Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai. Many of you have heard that name before. I will refresh your memory. In her home region, in the country of Pakistan, the concept of education for females was in opposition to Taliban rule. She was a passionate student. She loved to read. In fact, she said she was looked upon as sort of an egghead because she had read 9 books in her village. One day she was forced into a circumstance. She was attacked because of her beliefs that girls should have a right to an education. In October of 2012, she was attacked by a member of the Taliban. She was injured severely. She was in critical condition for several weeks and miraculously recovered from her injuries. The world took notice, and people in her community came to her side to defend the right of education for all. She is now a prominent education activist, strongly encouraging the world that equal education for all is the best way to have a better world. By her actions and through her ideals, she has become one of the most influential young people in the world and the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize in history. Malala persevered through a life-threatening event and began her fight with the notion of helping others to get a proper education. What we have learned from these young people, some of them have extraordinary talents that have enhanced the world, while others depended on themselves to achieve the unthinkable, and still others utilize their organizational skills for success. It is vital that each and every one of us does our best to make the world a better place. The purpose of organizations like the United Nations is to bring differing views together in one place, to create a dialogue that is focused on cooperation and the enhancement of our shared community, planet Earth. Organizations like the United Nations strive to create equal opportunity for all and to focus on the enhancement of living conditions for every human being on the planet, regardless of creed, ethnicity, or gender. And I'm going to go off script a little bit here and talk about your day-to-day. Stephen Covey, who wrote many books, including the 7 Habits of Successful People, one of the last things that Stephen Covey wrote were the 4 L's, or the 4 dimensions of human satisfaction and leading a good life. And the first was, he says, we all have to live. We have to love. We have to learn, and we have to leave a legacy. Think of those 4 things. We have to live, love, learn, and leave a legacy. Let me frame today in those 4 things. Living is the physical dimension, meaning making sure you're living in a safe place, that you're secure, you've got enough food, water, you're healthy. And if you think of it this morning, you got up in a very safe place, your residence. You were taken by bus in a very safe environment to school. Very safe environment, you were greeted by security, right? You had a wonderful breakfast which prepared you physically for today's events. So living, you're well taken care of. And think of others around the world as we speak. Think of Malala when she was young in Pakistan. Did she have that kind of life? No. Love. Loving is the love of your family and friends, a feeling of belonging. So you're in a group today, and you'll all be going to the United Nations in March. Get to know each other, right? So today gives you a chance to belong to a group and learn together. And learning, you're learning together. I understand that during the week you were helped by the United Nations Association of Canada to prepare, to do research. Right? You had workshops, was it yesterday? And you started that learning process. And today you will continue that learning process. And you'll be learning forever for the rest of your life. But the last piece I want you to think about, legacy. Each and every one of us wants to leave a legacy. For some people, it's their children and their grandchildren. For others, it's changing the world. For people like Malala, it's changing the world. And I want you to think at the end of today, how are you going to change the world? What will your legacy be? Thank you.